Now, I didn't fully understand, what this Jesus guy was all about. And even today, actually, if we're honest with ourselves, we don't completely understand what this Jesus thing is all about. How can we ever comprehend what it means to be the Son of God? That's just beyond us. But Jairus did hear that Jesus was the one who could make the impossible possible. So Jairus didn't care what anybody else said. If he didn't care if they laughed, he didn't care if they ridiculed him. He went to Jesus anyway, and he yelled, "Help! I need help!" Well, that's what Easter is all about. That's what Easter is all about. That's the cornerstone of our faith. It's turning to the one who demonstrates that no one or nothing is hopeless. No one or nothing is hopeless. It isn't over until it's over, and even then, it's not over. It's not over till it's over, and even then, it isn't over. That's what Easter's all about. That's the cornerstone of our faith. Now, notice what Jesus says. When you're in a situation that's beyond your control, no matter how hard you work, no matter what you do, everybody dies. Success and security, they're all illusions. It doesn't matter. So Jairus is in this kind of situation. He comes to Jesus, tells him about his daughter. Then the messengers come and say, "It's too late. No sense in bothering the teacher now." You know what Jesus' first words are? Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. On Easter morning, when the women came to the tomb and the angel was there, what was the first words out of the angel's mouth? Don't be afraid. I'm sure you've heard this before. If you were worshiping with us on Friday and on Saturday, you've heard these words, "Don't be afraid." They're the most powerful words in the entire Bible. They run all the way through the whole Bible. Don't be afraid. When Jesus appeared to his disciples in the upper room when they were scared, he'd been crucified, they were scared to death, and they were hiding. They didn't know what to do, and he walks through a wall and sees them, and the first words out of his mouth, "Don't be afraid." Fear is a strange thing. It causes us to live way below our potential. It paralyzes us and it derails us from our faith journey, and it causes us not to take risks anymore, and we become afraid, so we try our best to live safe, calculated lives. But when you try to live safe, you miss out on the great purpose for which you were made. Time is going to keep slipping right on into the future, and you're going to miss the great purpose for which God made you to fulfill. If the disciples had stayed in that little upper room, scared to death, hiding, they would have missed the great purpose that God created them for. Fear paralyzes us. It paralyzes our potential. It breaks down trust, the trust that we have between each other. It breaks down trust in our relationships, and it breaks down the trust we have with God. I imagine there's hardly anyone here that doesn't believe in God. That's part of why you're here, I'm thinking, is that you believe in God. But it's a whole different thing to believe in God and to trust God. It's one thing to believe in God, and it's another thing to trust God. God tells us, all kinds of stuff that is going to make for a good life, a well-lived life, a meaningful life. Don't lie, don't cheat. Give your life to my son. Don't go over there. It's dangerous over there. You'll die if you go over there. But you know what? We go over there anyway, don't we? We do it anyway. We do it anyway because we believe in ourselves. We believe in God, but we don't trust God. We think we've got the better answer. We think we know better, and we don't trust that God is the one that knows. Fear breaks down our trust and our relationships with each other. We fear what people are going to think. That's why y'all didn't get up and dance, because y'all were afraid of what everybody was going to think. If you got up and showed some joy and excitement, we're afraid of what people think. We're afraid if we take a stand and step out and do something about, and really live out what we believe, people might laugh at us. They might talk about us at the junior league meeting or at the basketball game in the bleachers. They might be talking about us if we do anything bold or daring or assertive that shows what we believe in. But did you notice that they laughed at Jesus? They laughed at Jesus when he went to Jairus' house. He said, she's not dead, she's just sleeping. And they laughed at him. We're afraid of what people are going to think. We shrink back into the background and we don't do what God created us to do. So we end up experiencing really the worst kind of death that there is, because there is a lot more ways to die than just physical death. And the worst kind of death is to be dead while you're still alive. To be dead while you're still alive. And so many of us don't even realize that we're dead. Even though we're living, we've quit growing. We've quit growing. We're the same people right now as we were this time last year. We've quit growing. We've stopped moving toward becoming the person that God created us to be. Jesus says, don't be afraid, because fear paralyzes your potential. Doubt limits your possibilities. And here comes Jairus at the beginning point of his life, really, because this is such a crux point. Everything before, it doesn't matter anymore. His daughter is sick and about to die. This is the beginning point of his life, and everything before pales in comparison. This is the moment where he understands in a big way that he can't, but he turns to the one who can. And as soon as he takes that positive step, you know what happens? Here come the naysayers. Here come the naysayers singing their songs of doubt. Jairus turns to Jesus, and what do people say? Your daughter's dead. It's too late. God can't help you now. God won't help you now. Can't. That's a big word in our developmental process. You can't. You're not smart enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not rich enough. You can't. You can't. I hate that word. I hate that word. We started out talking about how kids think they can fly and they imagine that they fly. And I can remember dreaming about flying. Have y'all ever had a dream about flying where you were flying? My mom, I have had a dream about flying before, but my mom still has dreams about flying. What an amazing, what amazing feeling that must be. And she still has those dreams. I have not had a dream about flying in years. I can't even remember the last time I had a dream about flying. Have you quit dreaming those kinds of dreams too? We begin to kind of downsize our possibilities. And we do that in all kinds of areas of our life because we need to watch really who we're listening to. We need to watch who we're listening to. Your daughter is dead. It's too late. You can't. I am really glad that the Wright brothers did not listen to the people that were around them back in 1903. Because did you know that in 1903, right when they were building that first plane and testing it and actually making it fly, there was an astronomer named Simon Newcomb who finished an article that supposedly proved that flight was impossible. And here's a quote from an article that he wrote in 1903, right when the Wright brothers were flying. He said, "There are no possible combinations of known substances, no forms of machinery, and known forms of force that can be united in a practical machine by which men shall fly long distances through the air. It is impossible." It is impossible. You got to be careful who you're listening to, because can't is a big word in our developmental process. I'm glad, though, that the dad of the Wright brothers was a preacher, because I'm imagining in my mind that his philosophy was, while his boys were tinkering around with bicycle repair and all that, he told them about the empty tomb and just said, fly, fly. Well, here's the second part of what Jesus said. You got to watch who you're listening to. You got to watch who you're listening to. And his message is, don't be afraid. And then he says, just trust me. Just trust me. The world says, hey, your daughter is dead. You can't because you're not smart enough. You're not big enough. Whatever the message happens to be. But here's Jesus' perspective. She's not dead. She's just sleeping. Now, have you ever met people like that? In the face of fact, they say the exact opposite and everyone thinks they're crazy. But here is the cornerstone of our faith. Here is what Easter is all about. Jesus sees nothing as dead or beyond hope.